The last 24 hours have by all definitions been underpinned by the events that happened across the capital, Nairobi, and the country. Tonight's broadcast is heavily focused on the flooding across Kenya and the counties. So far, 11 affected. And shortly we'll be looking at the number. The last 24 hours have all definitions been unusual. And the number at the moment is 28 of the people confirmed dead by the government. This is the at 28 confirmed by the authorities. 3,500 households affected in Nairobi County, and this is according to the detailed statement that was issued by the Cabinet Secretary Geoffrey Ruku in a joint statement with other stakeholders now monitoring. According to the Kenya Red Cross, in the same ward in Kisumu County, 56 hectares that will be focusing on have been destroyed by the heavy floods. Highways have been partially closed and inconvenience to travelers has been significant. And the weatherman says that the rains are set to continue until the 9th of March, which will likely mark the first point of respite. We'll be getting into all these details during the course of this broadcast, also speaking with the Secretary General of the Kenya Red Cross. But first, here are the top stories tonight.
Kutoka huku paka huku yote imela, kuna watu bado wako wamenguzwa, wamekufa.
Floods and death. 28 people killed and more than 3,500 households affected as heavy rains wreak havoc across Kenya. Devastation after floods, damaged property, lost livelihoods and businesses ruined by floods.
I remember the conversation I had with the president as I came to take up this role. And it looks like he knew something I didn't, that I now know. Because he looks at me and he said, "Dush," laughed.
Mission accomplished. Veronica Nduva ends term as East African Community Secretary General. Laid to rest. Letngeno's photographer Nick Koskei buried at home in Bomet County. Thanks for finding time for the broadcast. Yulan Zale is our sign language interpreter. Tonight, the country is mourning the deaths of 28 people as a result of flooding occasioned by a heavy downpour in different parts of the country. Out of the 28 who lost their lives, Nairobi County alone recorded 23. With Grogan area of the county one of the worst hit after Nairobi River broke its banks and swept away individuals and vehicles. Gatete Njoroge reports on the floods in the city which left a trail of destruction.
Saturday morning in Grogan area and the business community witnessed firsthand the effects of Mother Nature's wrath. Vehicles piled on top of each other, others overturned, and others swept away by the raging waters from Nairobi River, which broke its banks. 3 people died in the area as a result of. Inside this green car, people sneaked peeks to see the lifeless body of a man whose decision to seek shelter turned tragic. The vehicle was swept by floods before it got stuck. About 500 meters from here, another body was covered in a sheet. Moments after recovery, the body of the man reported to be a mechanic in Grogan was discovered under one of the cars. Close to the scene lay another lifeless body of a man who was electrocuted while taking shelter.
Tuka kitu kama saa 2 magari zilianza kutembea, maji zilianza kubeba magari zikienda nazo. Ilikuwa inaenda tukaanza kuona mabiria zikitoka. Mabiria wakitoka wakipanda juu ya magari na watoto na wamama. Ilibidi kama sisi wenyewe tulijaribu juu chini tukatafuta makamba. Nilianza na ile gari iko pale. Tulitoa wamama walikuwa hapo ndani na kamba na tulikuwa na kamiti kingine hapo hivi.
Hii magari mingi ilikuwa hapa. Ilikuwa iende kwa sababu sasa ilikuwa inafanywa service kidogo. Unaweza kuja na gari yako. Sasa angalia kutoka huku paka huku yote imelaliwa. Pia kuna watu bado wako wamenguzwa, wamekufa.
The speeding waters also swept away one person in Gikomba at Uhuru. person died in Kitengela, Kajiado County after his car was washed away by floods.
There are 25 deaths reported, comprising of 21 male adults, 2 children in Nairobi, and 2 male children in Kitui County.
In Grogan, the deluge did not just cause deaths, but left a trail of destruction. Car owners who had brought their cars for repairs and spare parts sellers are counting losses amounting to millions of shillings. It's a double loss to those who operate underground workshops, where water remains clogged, with efforts dedicated to draining them using special machines.
Shida ni vile hii river imetengenezwa. Inatema maji na huko kando. Ikishatema maji yote inatoka kwa ile river inakuja huku. Ikikuja huku, ikipata gari hizi ndogo ndogo inabeba. Magari zimeenda mpaka huko, tulifanya kazi ya kuzirudisha mpaka huku. Watu wanaenda hasara, mafundi saa hii hatuna kazi. Kazi gani itakuja hapa na wanajua Grogon niku maji ndio iko pale.
Police say 29 people were rescued by officials who were deployed last night to flood-prone areas. The process of identifying those who died is expected to begin next week. As they mourn and count losses amounting to millions of shillings, business people here in Grogon are calling on the government to put in place proper infrastructure to shield them from such disasters. Gatete Njoroge, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Residents across Nairobi County are accounting losses worth hundreds of millions of shillings after severe floods hit early Saturday following heavy rains. Cars were swept away, buildings and businesses badly damaged, and several hospitals and schools submerged, some losing everything and closing immediately. Many say the floods were caused by illegal construction near waterways and poor drainage system and infrastructure across the city. Here's Willie Lusige with that report.
The floods that hit Nairobi were devastating in their effect and some of the worst recorded in recent times. From cars to homes, businesses to public buildings, almost nothing survived the raging waters. From South Sea and Nairobi West, residents did what they could to save property or tow away cars that had been submerged. Vehicles parked in underground garages were completely submerged.
In the years that have passed, we've never seen such a huge problem, but this one has come with, it's been so ferocious.
Hundreds of businesses were destroyed, with owners losing millions and left stranded.
Tukasikia tu maji imeingia all of a sudden, ni kama maji iliingia with a lot of force. It was very hard for us to even save anything inside. We saw people being carried by water. There was nobody to help.
In Parklands, buildings were left in ruins after residents fled late at night. Roads remained flooded or severely damaged, making them impassable.
See how our world has fallen down, this side and the other side also.
In the city center, scars from the floods are visible, with many areas left in ruins. Across Nairobi, business owners work to find everything swept away, many unsure where to begin rebuilding.
We are so lucky vitu za downstairs ndio zimepotea zote. So nikiangalia vitu zenye tumepoteza chini ni 1 point something.
Institutions such as hospitals and schools were badly hit. St. Elizabeth Comprehensive School in Viwandani was completely flooded, leaving 2,500 students without classrooms or learning material.
I lost entirely, particularly in the office and the ground classes that hosts ECD, grade 1, 2, 3, and 4. We work with various organizations. They had given us tablets, so all those tablets are damaged. Right now we have nothing.
Residents blame poor construction practices, with buildings illegally built on waterways and drainage channels.
Those buildings are actually coming up on top of drainage systems, on top of waterways. If you go towards South Sea, you'll see that they're blocking the drainage system, and at the end of the day, when it rains, water will have to find another course, and that is why water is now entering through houses, messing up everything.
Many fear the situation will worsen if the heavy rains continue, warning that no long-term measures have been taken to prevent future flooding.
These are some of the damages that were witnessed last night, especially because of the floods that cut across a number of places in Nairobi. But the main complaint is that a lot of this damage was because of the result of the drainage system. Willie Lusige, Citizen TV, South Sea in Nairobi.
It was a night of terror and absolute gridlock in the capital, Nairobi, as relentless downpour turned the city and its environs into a network of fast-flowing rivers. What began as a standard evening commute quickly spiraled into life-threatening crisis. Merged in their vehicles and thousands of commuters stranded until the early hours of the morning. Brenda Wanga looks at the trail of destruction left behind and the growing anger over the city's failing and aging infrastructure.
As the clock struck 5 p.m. Friday, the heavens opened. But this was not your ordinary rainy afternoon. It was a deluge that quickly exposed the county's old drainage system. In just minutes, Nairobi CBD had transformed into streams, rivers, and swamps, turning an ordinary commute home for thousands of city dwellers into a nightmare.
I was supposed to be in the house by 6, but since it began raining, it's now 3 hours, 4 hours. It's almost getting to 4 hours, and it's still raining. It has not yet stopped, and it has really affected my schedule.
In the heart of the city, the sunken car park lived to its name in the most tragic way possible, at least for some motorists who had as routine parked their vehicles there. Water levels rose halfway up car doors, trapping those who tried to save their property.
Nobody is responding. Since 9 up to now, we are here in the cold. Everything of mine is stuck in the car. I'm rained on. Look, as a mother, I expect my governor to take care of me.
On the roads, there was little to no movement for hours. Motorists trapped in the fast-building Snarlap. One of the hardest hit stretches of road was along South B. Robert Duba, a motorist on this route, says he barely survived the sudden floods.
So around this place, we got stuck in a traffic jam. That's now where the hell started loose. Because we were seated in the car, all of a sudden, water is everywhere, even inside the car. So it took us to save our lives. We lowered the window because we couldn't open the door. So we left through the window.
Another motorist was forced to stay inside a flooded vehicle for hours before he could attempt to exit it.
Got this particular issue. It was a bit crazy on this evening. There was too much. We've tried to get out of the car. We were not able because the flood was too much. And we are here at the midnight, the morning. This is a bit crazy.
Pedestrians and passengers seeking their way home had to find ways of getting out of flooded streets and, in some instances, flooded PSVs. But the floods didn't just affect transport. Homes close to riparian areas were also flooded. There was little time and chance to save anything for some of the homeowners, with flood waters rising to as far as fast floors of multi-storied buildings.
Ukienda hivi maji inakuja hivi. Ukitoka hivi inakurudisha. Na hivi ukienda inakupeleka na huko mto. So hakuna mahali unaweza enda. So ikabidi tu tuache izikae hapa.
The recurring nature of this disaster has pushed residents to their breaking point.
The drainage should be done to avert this because it's been serious for. There is nowhere water is passing. We have a big problem with drainage South B and South C. Yeah. It's a crazy thing. So we need to improve the drainage in Nairobi.
As the sun rose over battered Nairobi, and with the meteorological department warning of more rains to come, many city residents are left wondering whether a repeat of Friday night is still on the cards. Brenda Wanga, Citizen TV.
Hundreds of people have been displaced and several roads closed following the Friday night rain that pounded the country. In Kisumu County, about 300 families will be spending the night in the cold after River Sondu broke its banks, sweeping across homes and farmlands in the county. In the counties of Makueni, Kericho, and Narok, transport services were paralyzed for hours after different roads were overtopped by raging waters. Laura Otieno now reports on the deluge of destruction that has wreaked havoc across the country.
At Rai village in Kisumu, the raging waters from rivers Nyando and Awach have not only drenched the village, but the hopes of about 381 families who have now been rendered homeless. What began as light showers on Friday afternoon launched into a full-blown deluge, leaving a trail of destruction.
Imagine kuja mingi meharibu watermelon zangu, meharibu za samba nyingi sana. Sasa hii maji sasa sumbua kabisa, kila mwaka hii maji inasumbua kabisa. Sasa naomba serikali kama anaweza kusaidia nisaidie na dike.
Nyumba yangu ilisingirwa na maji. Ingawa haikuingia sababu nilijaribu kuweka juu, lakini bado ilisingira mpaka boma, mpaka kila kitu imesingira, hata choo zote zimejaa maji.
In Makueni, the traffic snarl-up along the Nairobi-Mombasa highway lasted for close to 5 hours after River Sultan Hamoud broke its banks. The situation was exacerbated after River Kwamoswi also broke its banks from the Friday rains, paralyzing transport services on the busy highway and other alternative routes.
Kutoka Nairobi tulikuwa tukafungiwa na maji hapa kwa barabara main road Mombasa road hapa Sultan Hamoud, na kukuja kutoka saa 12:30 asubuhi ya leo, na mpaka wa sasa hatujapata nafasi ya kuvuka kiposa tuende function.
Kwa tumetembea huku kwa in-laws kuja kuona, na sasa tumefungiwa hapa, sasa tunashindwa.
In Kericho, the Mogenik Bridge was carpeted by raging waters, cutting off transport between Kisii and Kericho counties. In Narok, some passengers had to jump off a bus that was lodged on the Mogondo Bridge, which was also overwhelmed by the deluge.
So serikali mtusaidie, mtuangalilie hii daraja ya Mogenik. Tumeumia, hata wafanyikazi wenye wanafanya kazi Sotik, wafanyikazi wa matatu wameumia, na tunataka president utuonee hii daraja ya Mogenik.
The Kenya National Highways Authority has issued a notice of the temporary closure of the Migori River Bridge, which was overtopped by the river. Motorists have been advised to use the Kiringi Bridge on the Migori-Kehancha Road. Similarly, motorists in Narok have been directed to use the Ngong-Suswa Road following flooding and silt deposition at Kedong Ranch along the Maima Hills-Suswa Narok Road. Hundreds of acres of crop have also been destroyed by flood waters. Laura Otieno, Citizen TV.
President William Ruto has directed multiple government agencies to activate emergency response plans following heavy rains that have caused widespread destruction and loss of life across several counties. The agencies, including the Forces, the National Police Service, the Kenya Power and Lighting Company, and the State Department for Special Programs, have been ordered to coordinate efforts to mitigate and assist the affected communities. Melita Oletenges has that.
Heavy rains pounding Nairobi and at least 10 other counties have left a trail of destruction and displacement. The government says national and county agencies working alongside the Kenya Red Cross and the Kenya Defence Forces have already embarked on coordinated rescue, recovery and relief operations to restore normalcy in affected areas. Nairobi, Kiambu, Kajiado, Makueni, Nakuru, Migori, Murang'a, Bungoma, Kwale, Kirinyaga and Tharaka Nithi are some of the worst hit counties.
The government is assisting the displaced families by providing immediate relief for special programs and partners like Kenya Red Cross by providing temporary shelters in churches, in schools.
In Nairobi, more than 3,500 families have been affected. In Kisumu, 381 families were displaced. Infrastructure has also been damaged, with 2 bridges closed and 3 others swept away by raging flood waters. 15 schools have also been affected by the floods. In Nairobi, major roads including Mombasa Road, Uhuru Highway, Langata Road and Kangundo Road were flooded, with Kenyans blaming poor drainage systems for worsening the flooding.
The government assures Kenyans that it has necessary resources and personnel to deal with this crisis, through the already mobilized multi-agency team.
Nairobi County authorities have urged residents living in flood-prone areas to move to safer locations. However, according to CS Ruku, the city does not have designated higher ground, but rather temporary shelters and social halls prepared by the government for displaced residents.
In Nairobi, we don't have higher grounds. What we have is social halls or areas where they can be housed in schools, where we have those who are in riparian areas. For instance, along Nairobi River, we are advising them to move away.
Meanwhile, the Nairobi County government has deployed 4,000 members of the Green Army to clear blocked drainage systems in a bid to prevent further flooding. Melita Oletenges, Citizen TV.
And the Meteorological Department has issued a heavy rainfall advisory stating that the ongoing rains will extend for the next 3 days, affecting several parts of the country. According to the Met Department, widespread rains will continue with high amounts of rain expected in parts of Nairobi, Central, Rift Valley, Nyanza and Western regions. As Franklin Wala now tells us in the following report, Kenyans have been advised to monitor with caution the current heavy rainfall across the country.
A statement to newsrooms, the Kenya Meteorological Department has stated the ongoing downpour will continue for the next 3 days, with isolated heavy storms of 40 millimeters to 100 millimeters in some locations. According to the Met Department, the rainfall may persist into early next week, maintaining elevated risks of flooding, landslides and water contamination. The weatherman is giving an early warning about other regions of the country likely to experience the rains. They include counties in the Lake Basin region, which are Busia, Siaya, Kisumu, Homa Bay and Migori. The highlands west of the Rift Valley region and the western region have been listed among areas at a high risk of rainfall. The counties include Nandi, Vihiga, Kakamega, Bungoma, Baringo, Nakuru, Trans Nzoia, Uasin Gishu, Elgeyo Marakwet, West Pokot, Kisii, Nyamira, Kericho, Bomet and Narok. The Central Highlands, including Nairobi, Kiambu, Murang'a, Kirinyaga, Nyeri, Embu, Tharaka Nithi, Meru, Nyandarua and Laikipia will continue to experience high precipitation. This will stretch to the counties of Machakos, Kajiado, Makueni, Kitui and Taita Taveta and the coastal counties of Kwale, Mombasa and Kilimanjaro. The Friday rains were particularly heavy in some parts of Nairobi and neighboring counties experiencing more than the usual downpour. Areas which received a high amount of rain included Agoreti, Moi Airbase, Wilson Airport, Kabete and Thika. In the advisory statement, the Met Department says the current rains are part of a prolonged wet spell that began in mid-February 2026 and may continue for some time. This therefore means Kenyans should be cautious as they monitor the evolving weather patterns to avoid more loss of lives and damage to property. Franklin Wala, Citizen TV.
And with the weatherman's warning in studio, we are joined by the Kenya Red Cross Secretary General, Dr. Ahmed Idris. Many thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. By afternoon, we were talking about 23, 25, and now at 28. What are the specific numbers that we are talking about tonight?
We have to remember that the numbers will rise as more incidences happen. So I'll give you an example. This evening in Lamu, there was a lightning strike that killed one more person. So I think just explains why the numbers are 28 from 25. So perhaps we anticipate as more incidences and the rains continue, then the numbers will be rising.
Yeah, and was Lamu County, which recorded the recent casualty, part of the 11 counties listed today in the press statement issued by the cabinet secretary and the team that you are made up of, the multi-agency.
So remember, the death in Lamu is not as a result of flooding. I think the 11 counties that have been indicated are those that are under water or have been affected by floods. The case in Lamu was specific. It is relates to the rain, but the death is not as a result of a flooding. As I said, it's a lightning strike. The same for one other death that was recorded in Kwale, which was a lightning strike.
Okay. So looking at what the weatherman has pointed out, for example, the metropolis